Nosferatu, the medieval vampire in the remote regions of Transylvania.
In all cases, the killers are eating flesh of the people they murdered. Repeating this, the ghoul can be killed by a shot in the head. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
I wish to create a perfect human being, selecting the best organs from different corpses. I wish to create a perfect human being, selecting the best organs from different corpses.
The ghoul can be killed by a shot in the head. Murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers.
I'm Dave, and this is my friend.
I'm Josh.
And today we're going to be talking about, basically what we did is we each took something like a cryptid or a mystery, and
Something mysterious.
and we decided to talk about it. We didn't know until right before we started filming. So
Thank God we didn't pick the same thing.
I know, but it just would have meant we had more to talk about. More to talk about, I guess. Now we've got twice as much to talk about and not as much time.
So
But that's okay.
what'd you pick today, Dave?
Okay, so I actually picked Bigfoot because it's been a long time. It's been a big thing for me.
Yeah.
Big thing, Bigfoot. I always thought it was cool. I guess when I was a kid, that's kind of what I gravitated to. And plus, it's one of the more well-known mysterious creatures. Now, what did you pick?
Today I picked the Megalodon.
Now, I think the Megalodon's pretty cool. That thing's neat.
Yeah.
Of course, we all saw Jaws, so.
Oh, yeah,
And that was
yeah.
the whole thing. The whole theory is that Megalodon, maybe, what if it exists? That's what Jaws is. And that was based on the Peter Penchley book, I think.
Something about just the sea and it being so, unknown to us. And, they say we know more about space than we do our own ocean.
I totally believe it, because think how deep it is. And I mean, we haven't really been very far to the depths of the ocean. And the pressure is immense, whereas space is just a vacuum. You just send stuff, it just keeps going and sending a signal.
Load them up with oxygen and, snacks and supplies for the next 6 months.
Yeah. But Megalodon, I think that's the thing is, though, too, because it gets hard to see under the water.
Yes.
So in a very short amount of time, you just don't know what's down there. And the sea is big.
Yeah.
There's some big things. I mean,
It gets
whales.
pretty deep, too.
Yeah.
The Mariana Trench and all that. They say that only, something like 3 people have been down there, one of them being James Cameron. So
I know,
yeah.
right? I got to get to know that guy. I'd like to go down there. I don't think I'm going to build my own sub anytime soon. But what was it about the Megalodon that you wanted to... Why'd you pick that?
Well, for one, Jaws. I like sharks. There's a lot of it in pop culture. The Meg. You got Jaws. Finding Nemo.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just about any shark movie.
Yeah. And plus, there's something so terrifying about a giant shark.
And I think it's one of those things where, I guess, with people nowadays, and in a way it's kind of like Bigfoot. You go out in the woods, and you might have this large, terrifying creature that's much more powerful than you, that could literally dismember you. It's like going in the jungle and running across a tiger. It's the fear that you could be eaten alive.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing I think about in the ocean. You're out in the ocean, swimming, enjoying yourself, and really, you're just at the shark's buffet. I mean, it's bad enough with sharks, and Jaws did a lot to give a negative publicity to the sharks, but just this huge monster. It's a monster.
You're basically just a bite-sized snack for this thing.
Yeah.
Now, why'd you pick Bigfoot?
As a kid, I always thought it was really cool, and it's just something very mysterious. I think it's because it was really in the forefront. I think when you're younger, it seems like ghosts, Bigfoot, aliens, Loch Ness Monster, those are like the big ones you always hear about.
Oh, yeah.
It took me years later to hear about like the Jersey Devil, or
The Mothman.
or the Mothman, exactly, or like the Grinning Man, and some of this other weird stuff. And then some things are even newer, which I didn't grow up with as a kid, like Slender Man and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
More of the modern kind of mythology, I guess you could say. But that's Bigfoot again was like one of those big mainstream ones everybody talks about. So if you knew Loch Ness Monster, you knew Bigfoot, you knew UFOs, So and that was kind of why I went with it, because it's always thought it was cool. And me and my friends, we always thought it'd be cool to go out and look, and we kind of did, but we couldn't really mount like the kind of expedition we'd want, like to go out in the woods for like 2 or 3 weeks and look for something like that.
Well, I think there's something about a bit of mysterious about the forest too. You're out there, you're alone or with some friends. It gets dark, it's hard to see.
Absolutely.
You hear a noise, and you're wondering, what was that?
What was that? Was it just a squirrel rustling around? Because sometimes you'll hear stuff during the day. You'll look and see, and you see a squirrel rustling, or a bird, or someone like your buddy will step on a twig or something. But then but at night, beyond the, like you were saying, beyond the light of your own campfire, you don't know what made that sound. And it's like being on the ocean. The further away you are from something comfortable, like civilization, even a paved road, the further away you are from help.
Yeah.
Just like being on the ocean. What if your boat starts to sink? What if you got this big shark, this monster from the past, and it takes a liking to your boat or mistakes it for something, and next thing you know, you're in the water with this giant thing. Oh, and speaking of like boats and water, obviously boats and water go hand in hand, but it just made me think about, I think you had mentioned casually to me right before we started about an actual picture of a megalodon, and it gave a size comparison between a submarine.
Oh,
and,
yes.
What was that?
That was the Cape Town photo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, supposedly this is taken outside of, I think it was Cape Town, South Africa in the 1940s by a German U-boat.
Okay, now you did show me this.
Yes.
It's pretty impressive. It's pretty looking. It looks really good.
It looks good. Yeah.
Do you know if did they authenticate it? What's the deal with that?
I think somebody might have. I'd have to look more into that. A lot of people seem to think that the Discovery Channel fabricated it to bolster their documentary. It looks cool. Do I think it's real? Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like that's the same thing with Bigfoot, and also he's also known like a Sasquatch, the Abominable Snowman. Different places have different names for him. But that's the same problem with Bigfoot. There are a lot of people have actually been injured or killed faking these things or pulling pranks on other people. And because hunters mistake him for bears, or someone freaks out and thinks he's actually real.
And that's another thing. Hunters out there in the middle of the woods, they see something big and hairy coming up on them. They're like, whoa.
And it seems kind of laughable sitting here talking about it. But when you're in the moment, and you got to make a split-second decision, and suddenly you're confronted with what appears to be something that is completely unknown. It's not like you're in your house and someone comes out of the bathroom dressed as Bigfoot, and everybody in 2 seconds has a quick laugh. You're out in the middle of the woods, and then you're in this fight or flight mode, You're
already looking for an animal.
Yeah.
And worried about bears, worried about wolves,
Mm-hmm, exactly. And then when you think something like that's real and you can actually do you bodily harm, what do? Now,
what did you personally think of the photo, the Cape Town photo?
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, that looks really cool, man.
Yeah.
It kind of got my imagination going, and I probably shouldn't. I try to be skeptical a lot of things because, especially with digital technology now, but even back then, like even at the dawn of photography, people were faking, like, for instance, it's another subject for another day, but ghostly images.
Yes.
It's pretty common.
They do like layer them or something.
There's a dual exposure and all that stuff, but now it's even more advanced. And honestly, now you don't need to, like, if you were to do that now, do that Cape Town photo now, you could literally physically put something out there in the distance, and no one could disprove that it wasn't actually there because it's really there. It's not a digital artifact. All the lighting's correct and everything like that. But every time I see a picture, even though I'm like, oh, I want to believe so bad, and I let myself have those moments where I can be like, oh, that's so cool. I bet you that'd be awesome. But I have to reel myself back in at the same time because, if that photo had been out all this time and it was 100% authentic, I think there'd maybe
probably would have heard about it before.
Maybe there'd be more evidence for it.
I I agree with you. It's getting easier and easier to make these fakes, and sometimes there's these really good fakes, and like, whoa, that it gets your imagination going. You know,
there wasn't one. It wasn't Megalodon, but it was one where there was a guy, and I remember this was proven to be a fake, and it was very clever with editing and 2 different types of footage. But there was a guy who supposedly jumped off a reasonably high cliff into a water.
right?
Some water, and he's in there, and everybody's screaming at him. He comes out, he turns around with like his GoPro before he gets out, and there's like a big great white shark in there. He's freaking out and he climbs out, but come to find out, it was a very, very clever edit. I mean, he circulated for a while and it was out there, but same thing like with the Megalodon and stuff like that. What do you think, because we're talking about the Megalodon, what do you think, I don't know if I want to ask you this now or later, but what do you think the likelihood is of this giant shark, which remember the oceans are really big. I mean, what plants like covered 75%, 90% water, something like that, and it's deep. What is the likelihood that you think? I mean, I want to believe it's there, but at the same time, what do you think the likelihood is? And do you think you've heard or even seen of any strong evidence for it for real?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I would like to believe it would be out there, and I would like to think that, hey, maybe it could be out there with as big as the ocean is, but just with as much, shipping and people going to the beach, I think somebody would have seen something by now.
There'd be maybe a little more evidence.
I need to actually see it to believe it. That was the thing. One of the reasons they went extinct. The food source, which was predominantly whales at the time, traveled up north. They followed the krill, and they, of course, the whales followed that. These sharks, they mostly lived in tropical waters, so they weren't willing to go up to the northern areas to hunt these whales. So they're thinking that maybe they died off because of starvation, or maybe that some of these smaller predators, the ancestors of the great white, the ancestors of the bull shark, were just able to outspeed them,
Just more successful predators. Yes. And such a big creature does require a large amount of food to sustain itself.
If they were still out there, they'd probably be a lot smaller. And, we got the great white. It's, 20 feet already?
And thing's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's a monster in its own right. And, I mean, I still believe that it's very possible for something big like that to still exist, but God, it'd have to be, I would think it'd almost have to be at the end of its, if it was still around, it'd be like a living fossil, but it'd still be kind of at the end of its, not lifespan, but closing in on the end of it, even still being
endangered or possibly going extinct.
Last 1 or 2,
And I mean, they found stuff out there before, like the giant squids, fish that they thought could have possibly been.
Well, the coelacanth.
Yes,
is a
yes.
Fish, yeah. And that's a living fossil. It's living like they thought it was extinct.
But those are a lot smaller.
Well, they are.
A lot smaller. You're talking about a 60-foot, look this up.
Yeah.
50-ton shark, It's kind of hard to hide out there.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Especially with something that has such a large dietary requirement.
Yeah.
And even like when you talk about like the giant squid you mentioned, even though they're out there, but there's nothing yet. Like you see the classic image of this, what looks more like an octopus coming out of the water trying to pull down the old style art, this old
release
pull it
the
down
Kraken.
This old galleons trying to pull it out of the waves, and it's as big as the ship, and they're like, that's just not the case, And I agree. I think we'd have seen it by now. Someone would have, had really good photos.
Then definitely. There's been some Google photos. There's some coordinates. You can go out there. You see a shadow in the water. Looks like a big old fish.
Because
it could be anything. It could be somebody's giant ship, or a whale, or something.
I mean, it could be. They could just take the image of an actual shark and just blow it up a little bit and leave it there. And to the uninitiated, they just don't know because people want to believe it.
There's some people that every time there's some mystery about the ocean, the Mariana Trench gets brought up.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's hiding there. It's far too deep. Its complete diet would have to change. It'd have to consume so much to maintain that, large body. It uses a lot of energy just swimming around.
It's interesting, though, that they were surprised with the amount of life that they did find and the size of it, just generally speaking. They're like, wow, these things are really big down here. But not like monsters, just like regular fish and stuff like that. And just, they were pretty impressed with the variety of life still at those depths, and but yeah, I agree. I don't think anything's like that huge swimming around there, and I just think we would have seen something by now. And it kind of makes me think of...
This thing's teeth's massive, too. You're talking like 5, 6, 7 inches is the biggest they've found.
God, and that is a monster. That's ridiculously huge.
A modern day kaiju.
Really.
Or not a modern day, prehistoric.
And see, that's why I think, and I'm kind of the same way with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It's so big, and to have a population, a successful breeding population, even if it's like towards the end of its, existence, even if now it's becoming extinct, it'd be hard to, I don't know, even believe that it's around. I still want to, though, because I think maybe there's something, maybe there's caves, maybe there's holes in the earth where it lives, and there's this whole ecosystem we don't understand, and but it's just, without going really weird, and I got some really weird stuff, that's a video for another day, but I just think by now we would have gotten more, because so many people are determined to find it.
Right.
But, no one's hit their car and killed one and been like, oh, here it is. You don't find any bodies in the woods, because, like, if you ask a forest ranger or even a hunter, how many deer carcasses do you come across, or moose or elk or bear carcasses? You just don't walk around and go, oh, look, there's a bear carcass.
Yeah.
There's a Bigfoot carcass. It doesn't happen in the woods. It just doesn't. Not that stuff evaporates, but there's predators, and animals crawl off to die in other places. They don't just die in a field unless they can help it.
One thing I've always found interesting about Bigfoot is it seems like all cultures have their own variation of them.
They do, and that's very interesting. So it's almost like there's some element of truth there.
Yeah.
And there is, in the past, there was a Gigantopithecus, which was a very large humanoid. But, and I'll spare all the additional details. Of course, people can go look it up, Gigantopithecus. But there's no evidence that it lived, if I'm not mistaken, there's no evidence that it lived in what now is the Americas, especially North America.
Right.
But in other places, it might be different. But at the same time, too,
where was this creature predominantly found?
It was in... I have notes, too. Look at that. I can mostly prepare
Good old notes.
I know. But, oh, here it is. Let's see. Definitely not found in Americas. And... I think it was more Asia.
Asia?
Like,
I think that's what I've heard too.
Yep.
Do you know how big it was, or said to be?
Oh, let's see. It was... Actually, I don't even think I have that information on it. I do not.
Okay.
But it was definitely pretty big. Oh, yeah. All Gigantopithecus fossils were found in Asia. And, of course, they suspect that, of course, possibly it could have migrated across the Bering Land Bridge. But no fossils of it have been found in the Americas. But here's the thing: the only recovered fossils are mandibles and teeth.
Huh.
And so they don't even know, like, if it walked more upright, if it kind of was more like a gorilla kind of thing. So there's a lot of mystery there, and that's the thing with anything like dinosaurs or any extinct species. There's probably stuff that we'll never know existed because there's no fossil record,
right.
Or we have a city sitting on top of the greatest discovery. And, we just don't know.
Do you think that these ancient people could have found these skeletons or these remains and then kind of based their legends of like the Yeti, the abominable snowman around this creature?
It's quite possible. I don't see why not. Also, too, look at more modern examples of, let's say, Bigfoot, right? Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. It was just in my head. But there was a gentleman, I think around the early 1900s, and Robert Ludlow maybe, but he was like 8 feet or something like that. He was huge. He was a tall guy, and if you looked at him, he would towered over people.
Yeah.
And if you saw him, if you're an ancient person and you saw him, you were like, oh my God, look, it's a giant man. And he was literally a giant man. It was legitimate. They had to build shoes that was that were bigger than any shoes ever made, just for him, specially tailored clothes and everything.
Right.
And also his height and size caused a problem for him. I think that contributed to his death as well. But just think back then, if somebody like that extraordinary was born, they could be ostracized. They could be forced to live outside of their community, forced to leave and live out in the wild. And if you saw somebody like that, that could easily spur legends of this Bigfoot, because you got a really big guy. I mean, just look at a basketball player. I mean, they're already, you get next to somebody like, oh my God, he's huge.
Yeah.
And those guys can move and everything. But just think about, anybody who's got like some kind of growth mutation like that. I mean, that would just send your mind reeling. If you
I
weren't
think there's
familiar
also
with that
like
kind of stuff.
something with hair too.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
get like almost that. I hate to compare it to a werewolf, but
Oh yeah. I know exactly what it is. I can't remember the
their face.
condition.
I can't remember what it's called either.
But you would have like the dog-faced boy or stuff like that in carnivals and sideshows, or they bill him as like the Wolf Man, and all they have is something genetically wrong with them that creates that condition,
Could
and
very well lead up to a legend. I mean,
absolutely,
especially-
and as stories get told, things get bigger, things get meaner. And speaking of that, I know Bigfoot has had things where supposedly there's been some violent encounters or kidnappings. It's very, very kind of interesting, but I still think the evidence is kind of the true evidence really kind of sparse, I think, generally speaking.
It's definitely become more legend, I think.
Yeah,
I think along the same lines with the Megalodon. Just an old sea tale or camping tale you tell while you're out in the middle of the woods or the middle of the ocean, just to kind of stir up a little bit of fear and a little bit of
just to make you remember that you are not as big as the world, and in truth, Megalodon, of course, being a real creature, he kind of reminds you that man has not always been the dominant species.
There's always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish. And I think somewhere I like to think there's another campsite where at the end of the tale that all these other individuals are gathered around the campfire, talking, and at the end of the night, everybody's packing up, everybody's leaving, and Bigfoot says goodbye to Nessie and the Spring-Heeled Jack, and the
Jersey Devil over
he
there.
high fives Jersey Devil. Mothman nods, says he'll see him next Friday at the bowling alley, and Bigfoot goes over the dock, and Megalodon swims up, gets on it, and they ride off into the sunset together.
Is there any good sightings that you've seen or anything you've seen on the internet that kind of made you question, well, this could be real?
Everything I see, I'm like, oh man, that looks really good, because Bigfoot, it's so easy to do physically.
Yeah.
And someone's like, yep, there's definitely somebody there. But if you notice all the footage, it's always kind of shaky or not a lot
blurry.
of detail. Or they turn away, or like, oh my God, look at that, and then they turn, and then that's it. It's like nobody followed. Nobody tried to get closer. But then again, if I was out in the woods and I had a camera and I'm like, oh, look, that's a big brown bear. Look at that grizzly. I'm not going to get any closer.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense in a way. But still, again, pretty skeptical.
Yeah, me too. For the Megalodon and Bigfoot. It's definitely interesting. It's fun to think about.
It is fun to think about. It's fun to spook yourself.
Yeah, there's some good photos out there. I'll give them that. There's
Yeah.
some good fakes. There's this classic one where the guy's just basically like looking at the camera, walking.
Oh, yeah. The Patterson Gimlin film.
Yes.
And
Wasn't that guy a con man?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about all that. I've read a lot of different stuff. I don't want to say anything either way. But I know there was another guy, like Hieronymus or something like that was his last name. He swears he wore the suit, and that was him. But I've also seen people swear that they've analyzed the footage and they can tell that the hips just right and it moves like it should, and they extrapolate all this information. So you got these two different sides of the same coin. You're not sure what to believe.
Yeah.
And I've even had other guys, I've seen other shows where they've analyzed, they're like, oh look, there's another baby on it or something like that, there's a small one hugging it. I'm like, oh my gosh. So you don't know what to believe. It looks cool though, and it's pretty impressive. It just makes you wonder every time you look in the woods. You're like, But at least with Megalodon, to me, that's actually from a creepy standpoint. At least Megalodon, if you're on the boat in the middle of the ocean and you just look over the side, I mean, it's always not beyond the realm of possibility that there's just one more left, and you could be looking down as this kind of looking up at you, because it was real. It was real. That's more terrifying, I think, than anything else.
I think I showed you the photo. I don't know if I showed you the video. The Brazilian Coast Guard. Supposedly they see something.
Oh.
Yes. They're rescuing this guy. He's out in the middle of the ocean doing whatever. Could have been on a floaty. Who knows what happens.
Mm-hmm.
He got out there. And they're filming it for whatever reason. Looking down, and you see the shadow go under the guy.
Oh.
As they're rescuing the guy. And then they've tested the footage. It's undoctored. You can look it up online, find it on YouTube. To me, it didn't look like a shark, but it's hard to tell. It's a dark shadow under the water. Some people think it could have been a whale shark, but to those areas of water, they're not native. So
not the same. No, I mean, it's not like they check the borders.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sorry, whale sharks, you don't have a passport, you can't come in.
Can't go here.
Not that say they couldn't, but at the same time, first of all, whale shark's not a threat to anybody because it's just a big filter feeder.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
But at the same time, underneath the water, certain depth, you're not going to tell what's what. Even just underneath the waves, you're not going to tell, and it could very well be.
It looked creepy. I'll say that much. It looked creepy.
Being in that helicopter looking down, I don't care what it is. I'd be like, we got to get these guys out. Get these guys out. What is it? I don't know, but it's big. Just get them out.
Imagine being the guy sitting there floating. Why are they freaking out?
And you get about halfway up and you look down. I'd be like, oh, man, keep going. Raise it up. Raise it up. Yeah, I'd be freaked out, too, because you don't know. You can't just be like, oh, it's just a whale. And then, then seconds later something breaks the surface. I'm like,
not a whale, not a whale.
And then you see all those movies then where, it comes up, it grabs the guy, and he's still hooked to the helicopter.
Pulling on the helicopter.
Yeah, and it just pulls everything down.
Never heard of again.
Never heard of again. That's why I always keep my bat repellent shark spray on me. Oh, jeez.
Did they make a spray for Bigfoot? Anything? Any recommendations there?
Well, there's some bear spray, but I would just use it to spray my buddy so I could run away. That way.
Why'd you spray me?
You'll find out in a second. Bye. It's like that shoe commercial where the two guys in Africa are walking, and the one guy and they both stop because the one guy sees a cheetah, and he's like, "What are you doing?" The guy's reaching in his bag and he starts putting on some shoes. He's like, "What are you doing? We'll never be able to outrun that." And the guy goes, "I don't have to outrun him." And the guy's like, "What?" And then you see the guy take off with the shoes, and the other guy's like, "Oh no!" So he just got to outrun his buddy. So
like a shoe commercial?
Yeah, it was a shoe commercial. It was, I think it was might have been a Super Bowl commercial, but it was so funny.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Bigfoot. I don't know. Maybe bear spray. I don't know.
Bear spray. Yeah.
I'd say like a gun, but the only problem is, in some places though they actually protected Bigfoot, which is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
But also too, another problem is. If it's a guy in a suit, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's so easy for people to say, well, they should just shoot next time they see him. Yeah, but what if some guy's just making a little movie or something like that, or some people are fooling around, like at their campsite and you kill one of their buddies? That's going to be a bad day. You're going to jail.
Been joking around. Some guy with a camera could have been over there.
The Bigfoot defense does not work when you just killed somebody. I just killed a Bigfoot. Oh, no.
That still looks bad, even if it was a real Bigfoot.
Even if it was a real Bigfoot.
You're killing something that's probably endangered.
Probably super endangered, and the scientific find of the century, even though, and that might have worked like in the 1800s, but that's like, oh, look, this guy killed Bigfoot. And immediately, just within days, it would turn around and be like, uh-oh. It'd be so bad,
Well, people kill enough sharks already. Can you imagine if they found out there's a giant one living out there?
I know.
Oh, that thing would be like posted up on all kinds of photos. They'd have it like having a crane holding it up. It'd be on. It'd just be ruined. That's one thing that I always found interesting about them. Since sharks are mostly cartilage, the only thing they've ever found on the Megalodon has been the teeth. You get those big teeth.
You ever see that old, sometimes I see the jaws too. You ever see like that old, the jaw as the remains?
Oh, yeah.
You ever see that big picture where you got the jaw and you got like 2 or 3 rows of guys sitting in there
just like posing.
Yeah. I'm like, but I mean, just imagine. That thing is frightening.
It'll just snatch you and your boat out of the water, not think twice about it.
And I know, and I have this thing about like dinosaurs and all these creatures, and they say like man and dinosaurs didn't exist, and I don't know where Megalodon fits in all that, but I mean, the Earth's history is so vast.
Yeah.
Who knows what other man-like creatures could have come and gone in the time frame, because humans, for what science says our known time span, humans being on Earth is very, very slight. But just think of how long dinosaurs have been on the Earth and how long they were on the Earth. And, humans could have come and gone multiple times. You never know, or some kind of humanoid like us. So, especially if they were primitive people, even if they were, even if it was like a stone culture or stoneworking culture or something like that, like maybe like ancient Egyptians or something like that. They could build structures. They could be ground away to dust before we even come on the scene, or the land could change. That could be flooded. I know that's kind of a video for another day.
I think they have found some evidence of different types of humanoids. I think there was like this Hobbit type one out on this island.
There's a bunch of different ones. But I'm going the long way around with this one. But what I'm thinking is, imagine primitive people, and it's been proven that primitive people could have made long voyages, like the Kon-Tiki expedition and stuff like that.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, I believe.
And
the giant raft.
Yeah, and the guys recreated to see if ancient Polynesians could cross the Pacific, and they were able to.
End up where, like in Chile? Modern day Chile?
I think, I'm trying to remember exactly where, something like that, But they crossed like 4,300 miles. And that's the benefit of looking at the book right before I did the interview. So anyways, but just imagine being an ancient people in the past, and you build this raft with vines and these giant logs, and you go out on the ocean, and you see this giant, the Megalodon fin. Imagine something like that. That would be truly frightening. You're ancient people on this raft, and this thing just comes by. I mean, that fin would probably be as big as your raft.
Yeah.
5 or 6 guys on a raft, and the fin comes by as big as your boat.
And they got their little buckets tied to the side, collecting water from the rain.
And just like,
and just
I hope we don't get eaten. I mean, that would just be, I
wonder how many failure attempts. There had to have been a few.
I'm sure.
Primitive people making a primitive raft across thousands of miles of water.
It's possible, but just exactly. And I mean, I'm not saying there's any evidence or proof of that in the far past like that, but I just think it's kind of amazing. And just think the possibility of that some kind of human-like creature like us could have existed at the same time as some of these giant creatures, or even like dinosaurs. I know I'm way off topic now, but I just think it's just kind of cool. It's just Megalodon's got me kind of going. And also, too, there could be some crossover with like some ancient forms of man, like Gigantopithecus, which could be technically Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the abominable snowman.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I know the Megalodon went extinct about 2.6 million years ago, which really isn't that long of a time.
It's really not.
When you think about it.
And man has not time-wise, like deep time and all that. And man, we've only been, I don't know, we should probably research that before we did this. But man has not been around that long technically on the stage.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a number, but I'd just be guessing at this point.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even want to guess.
For
10, 20,000 years maybe, I don't know. For man.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
That's what I was thinking too. Oh shoot. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, that's okay. I was just kind of lost in the past thinking about all that stuff. But it's definitely, man, as much as I want to believe, if I had to believe either in Bigfoot being around all the time now or Megalodon, I'd have to say my money's on Megalodon if he's still around.
Oh, that's a tough choice for me.
And I'm thinking,
if one or the other was still around, I'd probably say Bigfoot.
Bigfoot?
I think it'd be more likely. There's just
what do you think?
A creature that size would have to eat so much. I think for there even to be one or two around,
it just have to be a lot.
I think it'd be more likely for Bigfoot. He could eat berries, eat meat. Vegetation. I think it'd be easier. I don't know if you could maintain that size in the forest. Probably.
I don't know. It depends. But like bears they scavenge. So if he's a scavenger and along the edges of civilization, maybe they could scavenge even more. But that would increase likelihood of maybe cars hitting them or more sightings and stuff.
And
like
as
that.
we expand out,
I think if I had to put any money on a giant humanoid like Bigfoot, I'd have to say it'd be more like the abominable snowman. Just because I like to say abominable. So the Yeti. And anyways, it'd have to be on the Yeti just because it seems like the environment is much more hostile and harder to get into, which means population could thrive, but then also too, The problem with that harsh environment is it is a harsh environment.
Right.
Unless there was something like they were kind of subterranean, and maybe there was some hollow earth thing, and it was really pleasant in there, and they'd come out occasionally, and it's their top of the world and our top of the world.
You just got some secret tunnel.
Yeah, the
little
Nazis
cave
are
they
hanging
come
out there
out.
with them, with their UFOs. All right, that's a little much, I guess. But yeah, if I had to bet on a big humanoid, I'd have to say it'd have to be like something like the Yeti, something where it's even more extreme, and of course then you got even more problems than with it. But
I just think the most compelling thing for Bigfoot is just the multiple cultures. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but like maybe there was something at one point, I mean, like the Megalodon or really any of these legends or something that possibly traveled or could have sparked the imagination.
I would not be surprised.
You know,
it could be something we don't know about, and maybe not something that's around now, but maybe was around up to a certain point fairly recently in our history. You know, like even like 1800s, You
look at like something like the Tasmanian devil.
Oh yeah.
Or the dodo bird.
Exactly.
Yeah. Both just gone now.
Yeah. There was. I remember. It's always kind of sad seeing the last footage of. Was it the Tasmanian tiger? I think it was.
Yes.
That's what it was.
That was what I was thinking of. Sorry about
that.
that.
I knew what you're talking about.
I just watched that movie about that with William Dafoe. He's like the hunter. He's paid to
wow.
go out and find the last Tasmanian tiger.
I haven't actually seen that.
It was all right.
That's
it was
cool.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. But just to see it pacing back and forth in the cage, it's the last known footage.
A little sad.
And it's like, whoa. And it's neat because you actually get to see something that was just extinct, just gone now. And but now also too, there's also sightings of that occasionally too now. That might still, but it's still so much in recent. I mean, they actually had old video, old camera video of it, so it's not that far gone. It's not too much of a stretch to believe that it might still exist in super limited way. Maybe super small population. Australia's a big place, anyways. And it's not a big animal.
Not at all. No.
Not
That
like
would definitely be something interesting
like
to talk
Bigfoot.
about, maybe on a future episode.
Oh, hey man, I got something. So we're pretty sure that Megalodon's probably not still around, right?
Right.
No way it could probably
No way.
exist. You don't think
No
so?
way.
Okay.
Too big.
Now, I got
Not enough
for you.
food.
What if Bigfoot still exists, but they decided, because of mankind's encroachment, they just decided to shave a lot. And they live among us.
They live among us. It could be possible.
All right, that was pretty bad. I think I'm starting to get a little silly now. But they live among us. And see, watch. Somebody's going to listen to this, and it's going to be a Bigfoot. And they're like,
Oh, crap.
we got to get those guys.
Just start hearing a knocking at the door.
Yeah. The door comes flying off the hinges.
I saw your video.
We're going to have to take you out. What? We're going to go feed you our Megalodon.
Him and Nessie playing the pawn.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know about you, but I had a pretty good time.
Yeah, this was fun.
You got anything you want to...
I don't think so. I mean, I
kinda
covered
feel like
most
there
of
might
my
have been-
sightings.
I kind of feel like there might have been something else there, And there's always TV shows about Bigfoot and stuff. There's a new one that came out recently on Netflix. It was about,
Was it Bigfoot Attacks? There's one of my roommates is watching.
It's probably that one, but it was about the Emerald Triangle. If you ever heard of that in California, it's where there's like a bunch of like marijuana growing like crazy and stuff. And there's a lot of legal guys, but also there's a lot of not so legal things. But apparently this guy, and that's it's called it's a Hulu series actually.
Yeah, I think that's the one my buddy's watching.
Let's see, it's a Hulu series called, I don't even know, but it's a Hulu series. Oh, it's just entitled Sasquatch, and it describes marijuana farmers telling stories of Bigfoot's harassing and killing people within the Emerald Triangle region, which is where they're growing all the marijuana and stuff like that. And specifically, I guess there was 3 Mexican workers that were brutally dismembered supposedly by a Bigfoot.
Oh, wow.
But to me, the more I watch, the documentary seems more about the industry itself, with the guy trying to ferret out the truth, but it sounds more like it was probably just like, a cover for these guys.
For
for
some cartel work?
somebody
or-
else killing somebody else
Oh,
because they're encroaching on the territory or something like that.
I don't know if Bigfoot or Sasquatch doing it would be my go-to for covering up a murder, but
yeah. So,
more power to them, I guess.
I guess so. But it was a pretty interesting series. It got me hooked, and I was. I've been watching it a little bit, and just because they mentioned a Bigfoot, I definitely want to check it out. But
it definitely sounds interesting.
It's pretty cool. I'm always interested to see that stuff, and a lot of times it's a really different kind of series. I think mostly because now it's more true crime versus Bigfoot, but it's there. It's kind of neat. And there's always in all the Bigfoot shows. I like to watch for a little bit, but then it kind of starts to get kind of formulaic. It's kind of the same thing. So,
I think for the Megalodon's a little tougher. You get like, Jaws, the Meg, Jaws 2, 3, Shark Week.
Yeah.
The occasional mockumentary.
And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's about it. Nothing really all that cool about it. I mean, the Shark Week's kind of neat, but
it's cool. It's still
there's
neat.
a lot of also false information or made up crap.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Go through.
But it is fun to believe, and especially if you like if you just like reading, just like letting your mind, wander and ponder stuff, or if you like writing stories or making movies, that's really good subject matter. Because it always captures people's imaginations. Or if you like to play like Dungeons and Dragons or something, I guess you'd put stuff like that in there, and it's just kind of cool. Having these big monsters in there. I don't know if anyone was saying monsters. Do air quotes, I guess you could say. But anyways, I just kind of cool. So, but I thought this was really nice. I really had a good time doing this.
This was a good one.
Pretty fun.
We'll have to do another episode.
I think
get
so.
together here soon. And
I don't know what we'll do. I don't know. Maybe next time we'll do it like this again, because this was kind of cool doing each picking one and then
just kind of revealing it the day of.
Yeah. I like that. Or maybe we could even just collab and do like one thing, which would be kind of cool.
What would you guys like to see?
I don't hear anybody.
Oh, me neither.
Oh God, it's probably because I got 3 subscribers right now.
One of them's me.
Oh man, one of them's me, and one of them's one of my buddies. Oh no. Okay, well. So if you're watching this and I got like 30,000 subscribers, this was way back in the early days. If you're watching this like in a few weeks of its release, I'm pretty small. Tell your friends about it. Please click like, subscribe,
and don't forget to click the bell button.
That's for sure. This has been great. I'm Dave.
I'm Josh.
And we really appreciate it. And Josh, thank you for coming out and doing this.
Thank you for having me over.
I had a really good time.
Yeah, it was fun,
great.
man.
Cool. All right. I think we're done.
That sounds good.
Cool. All right. Catch y'all later.
Bye.
That was really cool.